we're going to move on to but I think you're still up for the Beede Center. So that is Article 23 in your warrant, and let's jump right in.
Great. So we have Recreation Director Ryan Kane on with us tonight. I'm wondering, Chris, if you could please, if he's not already, I can't really tell, make him a presenter.
Yep.
I think he's really already on as a presenter.
Oh, perfect. Okay. So Ryan will be sharing his screen, and I don't think that I'm speaking out of turn to say that the COVID pandemic has hit the recreation department, in my opinion, possibly the hardest as far as the town departments, in that they rely 95% on fees that they collect for services. And of course, having to cancel the last part of their carousel preschool and effectively close the Beede Center has been very, very difficult. And the only furloughs that we've had in town have been from recreation, and it's been significant. And so the presentation that you are going to be hearing tonight is based on what we would have given to you back, when we were slated to come in and sort of trying to move forward and doing some things and not necessarily having this pandemic to deal with. And so Ryan and his team and I have been working very, very hard on an analysis of the type of hit essentially that the fund balances are going to take. And it was interesting to listen to some of the committee talk tonight about sort of the higher fund balances. And I can tell you, in an instance like this, the recreation revolving account had about $1 million fund balance, and there's a couple in Beede, and we're already seeing a decline in revenue and lost revenues, creeping up into the $700,000 to $750,000 mark, and so it's significant. And so I suspect that the presentation that when and if we have a town meeting and the numbers that we bring could be different. And I just think that in the interest of full transparency, I want the board to know that, and Ryan wants the board to know that.
Can I jump in, Kate or Dean, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? Can I? Because I think to build on Kate's point, she's absolutely right. When you come to the enterprise funds, water, sewer, and electricity as utilities, as necessities, aren't going to be as impacted by this. But Kate's right. This is the one enterprise fund that is, or the one enterprise fund, the one government function funded by enterprise funds. Sorry, that is going to be most impacted. And the federal government has said they're coming out with guidance on summer camps, for example, and the state is going to have additional information on summer camps. As we talk about reopening the government or reopening our economy, and they talk about doing it in a phased way. Our gym's going to be something that are going to come back later because of, the way people work out and droplets and all that other stuff, perhaps. And so there are very specific ways in which the current uncertainty makes what we're presenting tonight something that should be, understood as a snapshot of where we were before a pandemic hit. And I do think that these funds will probably change the most, or hopefully the federal or state government will provide assistance for recreation programs and get us back to where we were. But I just want, if you read the news about slow reopening or summer camps, that directly impacts what we're doing here. Just want to give that PSA.
Thank you, Stephen. Ryan, you ready to go?
Everybody hear me okay?
Yes. Well, I can.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having us tonight. I also want to, there's Ryan Kane, the Recreation Director, joined tonight by Anna McEwen, the Assistant Recreation Director, and Andy Dutton, our Beede Center General Manager. Also want to thank the entire Recreation team for the efforts they put in through these past few tough weeks. We've been coming up with all sorts of different plans and different scenarios and kind of playing a little bit of a guessing game. And also need to thank the Recreation Commission, who we vetted this budget by beforehand in the town manager's office as well. And in front of you, you see our mission statement that had been updated about 1.5 years, 2 years ago. Just to get started on the, just to immediately address the impact of COVID-19. We're not going to break into complete discussion, but the department immediately took an approach that the participants weren't going to bear the financial expense. Any classes that were missed, programs that were missed, were fully refunded for the portions that were missed. The Beede Center was not. We immediately decided not to charge for membership. The only charge we have is if you have a recurring monthly membership. We're charging your account $1 a month right now to stay active during this time. Other gym centers decided to try to carry through. We kind of went with the philosophy of we're not giving you the product right now, so we're not going to charge you for that product. We have been offering virtual exercise classes through Beede. The recreation team is also assisting out with local businesses where possible. Beth Williams, our newly visitor center tourism manager, has been assisting the town finance department and the local businesses and going through some loan applications. And just for some fun this evening, 2 recreation staff members did a Disney trivia with Trails End, and they were dressed up as Anna and Kristoff from the Frozen movies. The administrative team is following local and national resources. Mass Park and Recreation Association, National Park and Rec Association, American Campus Association, Mass Office of Travel and Tourism, U.S. Swimming, and just really hearing the concepts of what's happening in other states that are starting to come online. How are they handling their pools, their gyms, their fitness centers, and just really trying to build up different options and different ways that we can potentially put together a plan forward to the town manager's office and some recommendations. And we also submitted a pretty extensive COVID-19 impacts to the town manager's office and the finance director for review. That shows the financial impacts based on the programs being canceled and some recommendations that we put out there for cost savings for both current status and for future forecasts as well. As Kate had said, COVID-19 is going to impact recreation functions, as Stephen said as well, that pretty immediate. But looking forward and trying to forecast is very difficult for us too. We could range the gamut from very low participation to being in high demand if childcare situations come on and high levels, and people are looking to get back into health and wellness potentially. So we're looking at all different gamuts of how we can be impacted in the long term from this. So the rest of the presentation is really what we had presented prior to COVID-19 and kind of where our vision and where we were going forward with the department. Just quickly, recreation, I know we're going to talk a lot of numbers, but recreation is a people business. And the graph above just kind of shows you the impact we're making in the community with individuals and people getting out and enjoying their free time, their quality of life, and enjoying their recreational moments. Some of the numbers of note is 104 unique individuals in our master swim program. Last year at Beede, our visits were up 22%. We had 126,000 visits to the center. We have 59 unique individuals in our pickleball program, and we had 519 unique individuals in our summer camp program. Department accomplishments in 2019, we've continued with facility upgrades at the Beede Center. The cardio room received new floor and treadmills. We did the White Pond startup with the restrooms and trailers and the guard shack, and we also were involved in the Ride Out Phase 2 completion. On some program highlights, we updated our registration software to MyRec. Is a user-based, a web-based format that is much more friendly for the users to use and a lot more typical shopping for individuals. Our new visitor center and tourism manager was highly involved in a lot of activities and was highly involved in the implementation of Little Women Week in Concord in celebration of the movie's release. And we had our first successful summer of operation at White Pond Beach. Budgets managed by the Recreation Department. We manage 3 general fund budgets. the Hunt Gym, the Visitor Center building, and the 55 Church Street building budgets. We're also involved in the capital projects budgets. Examples of those, some of those are Ride Out Phase 2 and the White Pond construction. And we have two programming accounts, Recreation Revolving and the Beede Swim and Fitness Enterprise Fund. The Recreation Revolving account had a fund balance of $1,098,000 as of June 30th, 2019. Was considered a healthy fund balance, and had been being told by the auditors to start spending that down. Actually, was one phase we were going through at one point in time there. The budget goals for this year, these will be reiterated across the BD budget as well, as to increase wages for the minimum wage impact, facility investments at the Giroux Park for future programs, which was a capital investment, and to keep our programs affordable is really what we're looking to maintain. Budget driving factors, that increase in minimum wage will impact the recreation budget by $40,000 this year. We have general fund transfers of $205,000 out of the revolving account, and we had capital projects planned for $230,000. Are the major budget driving factors. We also do provide financial assistance of $145,000 annually in the revolving account, and most of that gets recorded as a lost revenue. Very limited of that comes from grant funding. This is the general fund transfer history. It has grown a little bit over the last few years, but our revenues have grown simultaneously during that time as well. This is just a recap of the financial assistance that we provide in 2019 school year program and summer camp program. We had 74 unique individuals apply for the financial assistance, and they received $145,000 of discounted services. We also provide financial assistance along to the Concord employees for summer camp, and this is a 2-year look at those discounts for summer 2018 and 19. We had 41 unique individuals, children in the program from 26 families, and that saved the town employees a discounted amount of $90,000 there. This is a recreation fund revenue and expenditure history. You can see that the revenues have continued to increase from approximately $1.5 million to $2.2 million. The major expenses that have increased over time have been the capital projects, which is something that we have taken on recently, started really in fiscal year 18, 19, and doing some capital projects to do some enhancements that would improve recreation programs across town. That was kind of coming from the drive and the directive from the auditors saying that they wanted us to spend down the fund balance a little bit. And additionally, the increase of the general fund transfers over time have been the major drivers on the expense. Hunt operation bottom line that we're looking at for fiscal year 21 showed a loss of $218,000. That was mostly driven from the $230,000 in capital projects that were geared for fiscal year 21. The basic operation of the Hunt budget, typically we budget out to break even, and we do a little bit better than that, is how we do most of our budgeting there. Beede Swim and Fitness Center, which is actually Article 23 in an enterprise fund account. The fund balance for Beede as of June 30th, 2019, $2,795,000. Fairly healthy fund balance. Budget goals for this fiscal year was to increase our wages with minimum wage impact, continue with facility enhancements, and increase membership. And we were looking to talk about a staff member focused on marketing and selling memberships. And again, to keep memberships and programs affordable. We've really held the line in memberships and programs for about a 2-3 year window right now, because when I first got here on the townwide survey, the Beede membership was considered to be overpriced on the reaction from that. And that is drastically on what we've seen back in response for that. Driving factors, again, the effects of minimum wage increase will be $25,000 this coming year. Capital projects, $110,000, and the depreciation expense of $400,000. General fund transfers have stayed pretty consistent over at the Beede Center. You can see the path from fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 21. Employee discounts given to the Beede Center. We have 24 town employees utilizing that program, and we discount about to $16,000 of discounts on an annual basis. Also at the Beede Center, we get a lot of use from the high school, particularly the high school swim team. And there's no charge in that based on the original agreement, but just to put an estimated use value to that, we gauge that to be at about $28,000 to $29,000 of estimated value for what the high school swim team is utilizing the Beede Center for based on the hours. Looking at the Beede Center budget over time here, you can see the revenues have stayed very flat. You haven't seen that increase in revenues. The expenditures have also, for the most part, stayed flat, with the exception of the depreciation cost is something that has continued to go up, and that is something that goes back into our fund balance as well. Personnel over time has actually gone down from fiscal year 11. We had $1.2 million to, in fiscal years 19, we were down to almost 1 million. So we have actually been on a less use of personnel. We had some layoffs a few years ago. That was a major impact within that as well. But we have kept the personnel costs pretty static over time. Beede operating budget, bottom line for fiscal year 21, does show after investment income of a net income of just over $25,000. And that is, again, just incorporating the depreciation expenses in that as well in the operating expense. We are proposing a new position for this year. We proposed it to the town manager's office. It has not gone in front of the personnel board first. The first step was kind of to go through and get the budget approved and get the funding, and then to go seek the approval for the position. We are looking for a marketing and sales manager. We believe we've had missed opportunities and have room for growth there, and we haven't had an individual focused on selling memberships since the facility opened originally, the first 2 years that the facility was opened. Examples of that, some of those missed opportunities is, our otter swim team. Of the 222 participants, 135 are Beede members. So we're missing out on individuals there and showing the Beede value to them. We also see a missed opportunity with the family memberships. I'll show you that in the next slide. But we would look to bring our goals up from family membership up to approximately 400 family memberships in a 2-year window. And on an annual basis, that's going to be $250,000 in new revenue for us to get from that roughly 250 family memberships to 400 family memberships. The next slide shows you the membership trends. The area I want you to really focus on is that family category. From 2008, we were at approximately 900 family memberships. In 2018, we're at 280 family memberships. A lot of those families have either graduated out and taken on either couple or individual memberships, but we have not done a good job of backfilling those memberships. The Beede general manager, Andy Dutton, and the staff have done a hyper-focused job of trying to make the facility much more family-friendly. It did have a reputation probably 3 or 4 years ago of not being so family-friendly, and we're really trying to focus on that and try to find better ways to be accommodating and more enticing to families to bring those memberships up. We don't think we'll get back to that original start that when the facility opened of those high numbers, but for us to get back to 400 family memberships is going to be something that's going to put us in a healthy status for that facility financially, and accomplishing what the Beede Center is geared to, is to be providing that resource out to the community for all members of the community. So that's it on those two budgets, like I said, there's the Beede Enterprise Fund budget and additionally the Recreation Revolving Account budget.
If you could disable your screen share, that would be appreciated. Are there any questions from the committee? Mary.
I have a question. First of all, I want to say that I recognize and I really appreciate Kate and Ryan, the work that you've done. I know that you've been hit really hard, and I appreciate how you've reacted. But I did read the Enterprise book that was done before all this happened, and I have a few questions that I'm hoping that you can help me think through. With the Beede Center, as you mentioned, Ryan, revenues have been flat for many years. And one of the reasons that you show a net income is because of the investment income you're earning on your fund balances. And you're thinking of hiring a sales manager. And I'm wondering if you've thought of, instead of hiring a sales manager, when things get back to normal, I know I'm way ahead now, if doing maybe a competitive analysis, hiring a consulting company to do a competitive analysis would be money well spent. And I can't believe I'm actually recommending spending money, but as opposed to just bringing someone in at a relatively modest salary and expecting them to either resurrect memberships that you've lost, I wonder if it might be a good time to pause and think about what's happening in the industry, what are our competitors doing? It's just an idea I'm throwing out there for you to think about. I don't know if you have any comments on that. Have you thought about that, or?
Well, I welcome it. We haven't brought in a consultant. We utilize our assistant general manager, TJ Leokas, constantly is finding out what other fees are being charged at other locations, not necessarily the complete breakdown of an industry analysis that a consultant would do, and really comparing what is being offered and what's playing out on everything there. So I wouldn't say we're close to anything like that. It's certainly a good concept. Where we were looking at the individual is when we downsized on staff, we just haven't had the bodies and the time to pick up the phone and make the phone call to the people who have left and asked why, and asked if they can entice them back to come back, or to individuals who came in and did a 3-month visit, 3-month pass. We should be really following up with them and saying, what is it going to take for you to join here? We never want to be the hard sales type of place like a lot of the box stores are, that you see the phone number pop up and you're horrified that you don't want to take the calls. But we should be at least making those 1 or 2 phone calls and getting back and with individuals that is prepared and planned and trained on how to communicate to people about how the benefits can be there for them. And what that would be.
Can I just say before, sorry, this is Kate Hodges again, but the year before Ryan came, they, and I believe that was like my first year here, upon the retirement of the former recreation director, they hired a marketing consultant. And it was based on the fact that they were seeing a steady decline, as Ryan showed, in the family memberships.
Right.
They hired a firm that came in and really looked at not necessarily how much they were charging. They were tasked with, why are we seeing a decline? And I can tell you that, the report was semi-inconclusive, but part of it was that people did not feel like Beede was family friendly, one. And two was that the newness was wearing off, and it was never the focus and had not been the focus of anyone to do something that continuously makes it look like it's new. So, when Beede was new, everybody wanted to be supportive of it. And, even if they only went 3 times a year, they figured like they were, contributing to this wonderful community asset. And then, a decade later, it's not as new, and people, I think the perception is, well, it's up and running, it's doing fine. And that is somewhat true. But part of what we were hearing is that, most places that are fitness and gyms and whatever have someone dedicated to that kind of membership. And so this has been
Okay.
something that we've had for years.
Yep.
But I'm not sure this is the year, frankly, that we're gonna be able to pull that off. But
Right. Okay.
Can I, Dean or Mr. Chairman, can I just?
Sure.
So one of the things we've done as a part of analyzing the town's finances internally is look at open positions we had heading into COVID-19. And we did talk about this position before that, and the reasons that Ryan and Kate have articulated. It seemed like a pretty good proposition because of the historic flatline trends and really needing to try a different approach. There are many positions that we had open that we are not pursuing fulfillment of because of the uncertain financial times. This position I'm inclined to go forward with because of the revenue loss and impact to Beede. And if we agree that the Beede Center is going to be a town of Concord asset going forward out of this crisis, and we agree that it needs to generate revenue sufficient to meet its expenses, then this position has never been more important.
Okay. I actually wasn't debating about the position. I was just wondering the timing and if there was something we could do ahead of it that would make that person more effective. But that's fine. I do have one quick question. I know it's late, about the revolving fund for the recreation revolving fund. And you're showing a total loss, and I know this is going to change, a large loss for the year. Who picks up that loss? So you were showing a loss of $218,000, and who makes up that? Does that?
That was originally intended to spend down the fund balance slightly. We keep getting asked by the auditors to their perception is to bring down the fund balance on a revolving account.
Okay.
And even sometimes, even though when we budget a loss in a lot of our, we end up better than that. So for the most part, we're budgeting to break even in our operation. The loss is coming from the capital investment that would be going on there.
Did you think about, I know that your salary is included in the general fund and not included in the revolving fund. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you consider maybe moving your salary into this fund and that would draw it down as well?
Oh, I can take that one. So that has a bit of a story. So the year that Danner DeStefano retired, Chris Whalen made the decision to take the recreation director's salary out of the general fund and put it into the revolving, and then to put a sum of somewhere between $25,000 to $30,000 into recreation from the general fund in order for the department to run special events. And I have to say, while I understood that, I worked very hard for the following 18 months to bring a different perspective, which is that if we as a community, if Concord feels that having a recreation department is important, then the idea of having a recreation director have to raise his or her own salary doesn't really keep with the spirit of public recreation. Because at the end of the day, if we ever face, and this was always something that I talked about, like imagine if, and now we're technically in a situation like that. If we're ever in a situation where we're not making enough revenue to be able to sustain quite a bit of the operation, would that mean that the town doesn't want to have a recreation department? And I didn't get the feeling like that was it. And so I think that it's important to have the town have some skin in the game. And I was thankful that that was agreed to.
Well, we're not there yet where we're at the point where the revolving fund can't fund the director's salary. In fact, we're actively trying to draw down the balance. So we're far away from the scenario you painted. To me, it seems logical that if we've got a revolving fund that holds both the revenues and the expenses for a certain benefit to the town, that it would contain all of the costs. But that's my opinion.
Yeah,
Especially,
that's an enterprise model, and I understand that. But just to that point, I think in the upcoming months, you're going to see a different picture. We've spent a lot of that fund balance. It would be a challenge to do that.
Okay. I just know at the beginning of the enterprise book, it was included there, and the rationale for including the recreation fund revolving is that it was expected to cover its costs. But we can agree to disagree on this.
Okay.
I have a question about the Beede and the emphasis on possibly getting a marketing person, and that being a priority to the level of it's an open position that we're going to probably want to go forward with. One of the ways of possibly getting some amount of name recognition and marketing that would extend certainly well beyond the town of Concord would be to affiliate the facility with some other organization. I'm thinking the YMCA or some other organization who we could use as a platform for fundamentally in the facility. Hey, here's a local Y, or it could be anything. I don't know. I'm throwing it out there as an idea. Has that ever been contemplated?
Everything is for sale, Dean.
Make me an offer,
And Kate can give you the real answer on that, or Ryan.
I can tell you that we've investigated somewhat at with NERSA, which is a national health and racket club organization that you could be a member of and kind of be affiliated with, so that people traveling across the country come here and they look for their local NERSA club.
Yep.
They do not allow municipal facilities in.
Okay.
It is for private sector only. So I had met with them at the Athletic Business show recently, and they right away were like, "Oh, you're from a municipality, you're unable to." So that's a little bit of the challenge, is just being in the municipality. Most of the things that we're going to, a lot of the private sector are involved in. But there's some bigger picture components to what you're saying as well. But on the level that I'm looking at and talking to those groups, they're more often not interested in playing with the municipal groups.
And as far as the idea of the YMCA, we've often had that as a sort of a back-ended joke to one another, that if we can't make this work. But having worked for the YMCA right out of college, I can tell you that they don't come over and have a facility as a share. The organization could and may take it over. They usually buy it for lower than cost, and they usually take it off of whomever's hands because it's failing. And I don't think that we're there. And I also think that what you'll find is that the YMCA model of doing things is a bit different than the way Beede runs now. And so I'm not sure. I think we'd have to be very clear with the community about what would change for the membership. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad changes, but they're different. Their model is different.
I was just
Understood.
Throwing it out there as a thought.
And with that fund balance, Beede's really not in as bad a shape. It's just that flat revenue line is something we really want to look at and saying, how do we get out there? And what the place was built for originally was to be out there and be part of the community and have not 200 family memberships, but to have 400 family memberships. That's what we're trying to get back to and get that.
Okay. Are there any questions from the public? I don't see any. And so given that that's the case, I think thank you very much, Ryan, for your presentation, and Kate and Stephen for chipping in on it. And I think that brings our meeting this public hearing to a conclusion. So I'd like to hear a motion to adjourn the hearing and
So
call
moved.
it a night.
Thank you.
So moved.
Dia has a motion, a second. Get a second there. All right, there's Mary.